What do you do when you can't say goodbye? Death is its own wilderness. Ask the dying, the ones who are preparing to let go of everything they have known. Ask those who walk away from the cemetery, entering the wilderness of their own grief. Death is its own wilderness. And it's even worse when you can't say goodbye. I don't know all the way what to say about saying goodbye. What I do know is it is what a lot of our students are experiencing right now. They left for spring break fully expecting to return to each other, to their friends, and to our beautiful campus at the university, fully expecting to stand some of them with 5,000 and celebrate the victory of their graduation. And they never returned. This is not what they expected, what they assumed would be their life. I am big on goodbyes. I don't like it when somebody leaves without saying goodbye, without a handshake or an embrace or even a bow to each other. Closure. Closure matters. Perhaps it's some sort of separation anxiety on my part. Perhaps it's just the right thing to do. But I like the words goodbye and a big and grateful hug before we leave the good company of someone we love, or a moment in ministry with someone we care about deeply. That's what I and our campus ministers are experiencing right now on the other end of that stick, where we had no closure. The end of the year is a powerful time in all of its goodbyes, a powerful time indeed. Saying things perhaps we were waiting to say till the end, summarizing our time together, putting out there some challenges they continue to work on as they move into the rest of their lives. I think it was Alan Alda who said once at his daughter's graduation that the most important things we say in life are the things we say with one hand on the door as we are preparing to leave. Things we meant to say the whole time, we end up saying at the end, one hand on the door as we prepare to leave. It's what a lot of older folks are experiencing right now as well. So many older folks, married 60 plus years even, cannot even go to visit their spouse in the hospital who is very, very sick, maybe even dying. They can't even go to see him or her. They can't talk face to face in person. And now we can't even do a funeral. Oh, we can gather 2 or 3, maybe. But now more and more people are putting off the funeral because they can't say goodbye to this person they loved. Sudden deaths are like that, aren't they? Sudden deaths, to me, would be the worst death. All of a sudden, you get the call, and you try desperately to remember the last conversation you had with him or her. What did you say? What did you do? What might you have said? What might you have done? Did you mean that embrace, or were you halfway out of it while you were in it? It's especially excruciating when that death is a suicide. And there's no way to bring closure to that, really. With this one who we loved, who died. What do you do when you can't say goodbye? It is for this reason the church is relentless, even ruthless, in getting us to see that it is a reality that almost every single human person suffers. Not just that we all will die and we will all suffer the death of someone we love, but like Martha in that gospel, in that iconic story from our scriptures, like Martha, who suffered that death and was lamenting the death of her brother deeply. But there's also the factor that sometimes we don't get to say goodbye before they die, before we get the news. It's so sudden. Or we thought they'd be sicker longer and we'd put it off to say the things we want to say because we thought we'd have another day, assuming we'd have another day, and we didn't get it. And it's clear that Jesus did not get a chance to say goodbye to Lazarus. Wherever he was and whatever he was doing, he did it for 2 more days after he found out his friend Lazarus was sick. Perhaps he was busy about his ministry. Perhaps there were some things that needed to be said there before he went to the next place. And so after those 2 days, he walked 5 hours to Lazarus to see him, only to find out when he got there it was too late. Too late for this Son of Man, this truly human one, too late for him to say goodbye. When he got there, perhaps realizing that he did not get to say goodbye, and maybe even regretting that he stayed those extra 2 days. All it says, and I think it's the shortest sentence in the Bible, and Jesus wept. I know he wept for the loss of his friend Lazarus in this world with him, but I suspect he also wept because he didn't get to say goodbye. He wept that he waited too long. He wept that he did not say goodbye. He wept because he wanted to see him one last time. And maybe that's at least partly why he asked those there in that cemetery, roll back the stone. I need to see him. I need to even see his body to say goodbye. The wisdom, the collected wisdom of our community, the community of the church, is that we are to always, always, always live the final state of affairs now. To always, always, always live that final state of affairs right now, assuming we will also always have another day to say what we want to say, to do what we want to do. Well, you know what assuming does to people. To be aware of that is not to live in a state of heightened anxiety all the time. Like, my gosh, this person's going to die, and living under that cloud. It's not to live in a state of heightened anxiety, not to be obsessively about this all the time, but rather it's to create a sense of urgency to live one day at a time, a life that matters now, a life that has its own closures today, to this conversation, to this visit, to this dinner party, with the hope of tomorrow for sure. But to say what needs to be said today, one day at a time, like thank you, and I'm so sorry, and I love you. Never without specifics, in other words. What I'm grateful for. What I'm really, really sorry for. And why and what it means to love you. That equals closure. That equals a peace without regret. When at the end does come. Not if, but when the end comes. Ours or theirs. Somebody told me this past week that she's living with some anticipated grief, she called it. Anticipated grief. And how that was affecting her. And it ends up from that conversation, I knew something was up inside of me, but I couldn't put words on it. And she put the exact words on something I was feeling, this experience of anticipated grief. Somebody I love, somebody I know, somebody is going to die. She named that for me, and it was really an important breakthrough for me in understanding myself. I've been in a support group of priests for 39 years and counting. We've met once a month over that entire 39 years. We are quite intentional about our presence to each other. But this time, for me at least, after hearing her words, in a deeper way, as I wondered which one of us might be next. We're all older guys now. We're all inching around 70. Some of us have pre-existing conditions. Which one of us might be next? We are all priests. We do funerals for a living. We know the finality of death, which is what makes Martha so frantic. She's so frantic that Lazarus was dead because it was so final, and she was having a hard time coming to grips with that in this iconic gospel story. It created a tenderness in our presence to each other this last time we gathered, this time on Zoom. There was tenderness in my heart watching the faces of my brothers that I've met with for 39 years, wondering. It made us want to hang on to the conversation, even though we were on Zoom already for 4.5 hours, and our rear ends were killing us. From about the age of 5 or 6 until I was 37, I had a mom who was given a reprieve. Nobody has ever suffered the particular disease that she caught, and she was the first one in the medical books to live through it. All the medical people told us to prepare for her death, that she would never see her kids again, my brother and me. My brother was 3.5, I was 5.5. I remember one time we weren't allowed in hospitals at that point in time, and so she was in the old DePaul hospital on the top floor, and my brother and I were in the parking lot with my dad, and all we could do was wave to her and try to figure out what's going on. I don't really know what she was like before I was 5.5, but I can say that she did not waste a second of her life after that. She did not waste a second of her life, and I'm not exaggerating to say that. She whistled constantly around the house all the time in her gratitude and joy. As a matter of fact, I told her, Mom, I'm going to know you in heaven by the whistle. I'm going to hear you whistling, and I'm going to make my way right there. She could not say I love you enough to us and to everybody else in her life. She was so full of life, so robust in her living. And we were never not grateful, I think it's fair to say, except for maybe when I was a teenager, for her life, for that reprieve, that she sort of came back to life for us after almost 6, 8, 10 months of the hospital. If we do our work in this wilderness of grief, I can see us living on the other side of this in a heightened state of awakening, of being awakened to things that we take so for granted that are such a given, at least they were, up until a couple weeks ago. The soul's winter will begin to bloom again with those tiny little buds that are already making their way into this world around us here in St. Louis at least. Those tiny little buds that can get snuffed out so quickly by a sharp freeze. That spring comes as surely as the winter came. And then begin to see some beauty here and there as we do this work of grieving, this wilderness of grief. And for the time, those tiny little buds just beginning to break, they have to be enough. and maybe even more than enough. When life does indeed call us to the grief that is its own wilderness.